Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Game Pass Grab Bag, your weekly podcast reviewing games, the Game Pass Collection, bringing you two unique perspectives and ranked skill range. I am the loaded dice of this episode. Andrew, with me, our loaded dice, Keith.
Hello.
And when picking this intro, I was trying to thought we'd come up with something. And I realized we're both drinking beer, and it's like, you know what, this works for both of us here.
So that probably would have been a way better gag with a visual, which neither of us were on camera drinking when you said it either.
I know, but I'm still, you still are. Oh wait, we're drinking the same brand too.
Not an advertisement, but Sam Adams, Cold Snap.
Yep. I didn't care for the Cold Snap. I'm drinking the Jacko, the fall beer.
Hey.
I had leftover ones.
Hey, it stays good. It's fermented already. It's as long as it doesn't open, you're good.
Yeah. But me and Keith wanted to come up on here since there is obviously a ton of games on Game Pass, a ton of little games. Me and Keith have dabbled into a whole bunch of them. So we were like, you know what? We should probably knock out a handful of just smaller episodes so we can just talk about some of these games because they're kind of hard to do a full episode on because, you know, they're a very simple mechanic type of game. But you know what? They deserve attention too, you know? And, you know, it makes it easier for us too. We don't have to focus too hard on a heavy game this week and just kind of enjoy games that we don't get to enjoy as much on Game Pass. So anyways, this week we're talking about Dice A Million. Dice A Million is currently in game preview, and it is also currently only on Game Pass PC as of this recording on March 4th, 2026. But there is going to be a console port, but it has not been announced yet. But anyway, what is Dice A Million? Dice A Million is, of course, a roguelike dice game where you are rolling dice to try to get to a million. Oh, man, do you think that's how they got the name?
You know, that tracks. I think that's probably something that plays into it, I think.
I mean, well, remember when we did 33 Immortals and we found out they had 33 employees? I thought maybe this game has 1 million employees.
It could be. I hope they do. That's good for the economy.
Speaking of which, we need to revisit 33 Immortals soon.
I keep looking at it. I think the only thing it's still missing right now is achievements, and typically that's not my huge.
No, they haven't come up with the last stage yet, but that's coming out, I think, in the next month.
So achievements are available now? Or wait, were they from the beginning?
No, there hasn't been achievements yet. No, yeah, you're right.
Okay. Either way,
but you said the only thing it's missing is achievements, and that's it's missing.
Well, the only thing that's keeping me from going back to it, I should say, I should clarify.
But anyway, yeah, Dice A Million, is just a roguelike dice game where you're literally rolling dice. You are trying to beat this game, the level score, by rolling these dice. So you obviously, when you first start off, you have the black hand, which is just very basic. You have a bag of dice. And your bag of dice with the black hand is a handful of D3 dice and a handful of D4 dice. You're trying to collect a certain amount of pips by so many rolls so you can progress and go up and forth. It is very much like Balatro, but instead of cards, you're dealing with dice.
I would beg to differ. It's more like Clover Pit. So it's you pay in increments to stay ahead of it, and
you do in Balatro as well.
No, you don't. Technically yes. If you know, like, I could score a pair and that easily beats all the hands, like I'm hand, or I can skip, but you can't pre-beat a level in Balatro the same way by having, like, so if I on the first one, unless I start to get certain cards, it's not a natural dynamic of the game. And this is where I'm making this counterpoint, is that in Dice A Million, like Clover Pit, we have a set goal, 15 pips on the first hand. If I get 50 pips on there, the 35 pips carry over. I can use those in the shop as I want, but everything I save goes towards my next goal, and so forth until I get to the boss level. Now, the boss level does change that. You have to you lose all of your coins whether you spend them or not. So go ahead and spend them there. But ultimately, it's closer to Clover Pit from a scoring perspective. Now, from otherwise, I think gameplay perspective, I wouldn't argue that it's closer to Balatro. It's much more Balatro style that way.
I don't know. You describe it, I'm like, this sounds like a lot of Balatro. Because I don't know. To me, it's splitting hairs. I feel like at the end of the day, even Clover Pit is very much like Balatro. but we're getting ahead of ourselves, Keith. We got to
Sure,
first
sure.
kick this off of whether or not this is a game you should play or a game you should pass. I guess I don't need to clarify that much now that Aaron's not on this episode. But starting off for me, yeah, this is a game. It's very simple. It's obviously very luck based because you are just rolling dice. But of course, you can build how you're building your deck and how you're going about it. But so far, I find the gameplay loop very addictive because that is always of case the very example of what makes a good roguelike is once you fail, how badly do you just want to hit new run? Let me go again. I want to go again. And this Dice a Million just had me keep rolling those dice, rolling them bones, if you will. I'm sorry, I apologize for that statement. But I
hate
think
so
Dice a
much
Million is
that
a
you
ton
said
of
that.
fun.
I love this. So you said at the beginning of this we were going to do a couple episodes on smaller games because they're harder to cover, and that is true. But the reality is you know these are games that I play way too much of already. So the reality is this is just my opportunity to finally speak about them. Yeah, immediately when I saw this was coming to Game Pass, I was bummed because it was on PC, and as I've said many times, I don't have the best PC, but this does run. I can do it, and it's great. And it immediately grabbed me. It is harder than either of the games we compared, partly because it purely is RNG. Like Andrew said, the dice rolls are RNG. Obviously your shops and everything else around it, like any roguelike is, they're RNG. It's tough, but it never feels unfair, at least so far that I've put into it. But it does get harder to play. So we'll get into the further details on it. But all that said, definitely this is a game. And I think you said already that it's coming to
It's a
Xbox.
definite game or definitely just a game?
It is definitely a game.
Okay.
I mean,
Still
maybe
didn't
again,
clarify.
if it's a definite game.
Okay.
Maybe if you don't like roguelikes, if you're not like me, maybe you're not. But this is a definite game for me.
So actually getting into the story, because there actually is, at least, I don't know if it's just a setup or it's going to be in the future, but this game actually does start off with a bit of a story. You don't know anything about your character. You literally just see your hand, but you are given a phone call of somebody saying, "Hey, you work in the dice factory. Your goal is to get to 1 million, so keep going." And your character tries to ask questions. "Hey, what's going on here?" But the guy just yells at you, "No questions. Roll those dice." And that's as much as I've gotten from the story. It sounds okay, and this is where I guess I could more see where you're coming from. Of this is more like a Clover Pit, because the story of Clover Pit was very much, you're in hell, purgatory, and it's this dark, grim scenario, and you don't know what you're doing. You just are given a task, and you need to do it. And that's how this story is kind of set up too. But it doesn't seem as grim. Like obviously, Clover Pit had kind of some gore and you're collecting body parts and stuff like that. This doesn't happen in Dice a Million. Dice a Million is just, hey, throw dice. Up, you didn't make it. Start all over again, and that's kind of it.
The phone ringing. Clover
yeah.
Pit also.
That is very true. I will give you that, Keith. But no, overall though, like the story is fine. It's a setup. Like I said, I don't know if the game does more. I've probably put 8 hours into this game so far, and honestly, nothing else has really changed with the story. So as far as the gameplay goes, you have 3 bosses, I'm pretty sure, right?
I think so. I've gotten as far as it calls it phase 1, phase 2.
Phase 1, phase 2, and I think phase 3.
It's a play on words if you're not catching that, because it's verbally it's not always good to convey. It's better when you see it. But yes, face. So yeah, I've beaten the first 2 bosses.
Wait, it's a play on words?
Yeah. Like
I
the
don't
face
get
of the
it.
dice.
Oh, well, okay.
I mean, otherwise, why would it
I
be
didn't correlate
face?
that.
Did they just spell it wrong? Like, is
No.
it supposed to be face? I don't know. I
But
can't think
anyway.
of any other reason it would be.
Sorry to interrupt.
Because
Keep going.
as you look at the descriptions, all of them describe the face of the dice. So yeah, I got as far as this. So I've unlocked the red hand, which is the second one. And I think I played it completely backwards of what you're supposed to do for it, and I whittled it down to like no dice, whatever. Either way, I got to a point where I felt like I kind of like broke the game a little bit. Like the intent of any one of these games are like I was just crushing every round. I didn't really have to think about it. I just had like 7 dice, and I would just grab whatever 5 I needed and just keep throwing them, because one of them in particular gained a value every time, and it held half its value that it gained every round. So it was just absolutely cruising. Did hit a wall naturally, as these games do to you, but I'm learning, and it's a lot of fun. But I didn't notice it. There was extra dialogue when I beat the second face, and it's the same thing. It asks those questions, but they don't seem like they feel like they matter. It feels like it's going to give you the same dialogue no matter what you say to it, or at least some flavor of it. I don't think it's changing or matter for anything. I think it's just there to deliver some flavor to the game,
Yeah, that's kind of what I got too.
and that's fine. I don't hate when games do that. I really have no problem with it. But truthfully, I couldn't care less if they were just like, hey, here's a silly hand roll and dice, and it needs to have that silly hand too. Like if you just picked 5 dice and they just dropped on there, it it's so simple and it's so stupid, but this game would be so boring. But there's something about that level to it. I'm like, it makes it just more fun, and it makes it
Yeah.
feel more like you're actually rolling the dice, and it's not just giving you this random set of dice just dropping onto a grid.
See, what I like about, I mean, well, I guess before I get into more gameplay, I want to ask you, Keith, when it comes to a roguelike game, would you prefer that they attempt a basic story, or do you just prefer there was none?
I mean, it really depends on the game, and I know that this is going to be a very cop out answer, because you obviously have like a Hades, and that game is built on its story, and it would be a great game without it, but it's a fantastic game with it. So I guess if I'm saying it that way, I'll backtrack it and say no. I think any good roguelike game is fine without a story, but they can be improved with it. They just don't necessarily need it.
See, for me, I like that they at least try to give you something. I really like that. So that's why I'm least like about Dice a Million. That so far with its story, it does seem relatively basic, but it's at least something. I like to have at least something of just I'm not just a person rolling dice. I'm not just a person playing cards. I like to have a little bit of something.
So versus Balatro, where yes, you have the Joker talking to you.
Yeah, but you what do you
There's
do?
no real story.
And like
Exactly.
honestly,
I gotcha.
and like honestly, like when I'm thinking about it, compared to a lot of people who've put time in Balatro, I didn't put that much time in Balatro.
I mean,
Don't get me wrong, I love Balatro, but like you, Keith, I know you've put in like hundreds of hours in Balatro, and like, but I
true.
haven't.
Well, I mean, the thing about Balatro truly, we've joked about it before, is that there's, this trend over the last year and a half of games that they're like, it's like Balatro, but, and then they just throw something in there. And they largely all hit, but it's in that point where Balatro has a special place in my heart. Like, it was the first game of its kind that kind of just turned a roguelike on its head and took something that could have been a pretty boring concept and made it really fun to me. And I fell in love with it. Just a game that encouraged you to just find the most wacky ways to basically break it wide open, and it was just fun. And so all of these games that have stemmed off of it, like we're watching Dice a Million, we're talking about tons of fun, but yeah, I mean, I could still go back and put easily 10 hours of that game and only get mad at the games I lose, which is most of them. But we won't talk about that.
But yeah, getting into the gameplay of Dice a Million, as I said, you're picking your hand, which of course comes with your starter dice bag. They obviously vary depending on just very much like Balatro, because Balatro, you start with the blue deck, the green deck, the red deck, like it goes on. It's very much the same thing, but instead of a deck, it's a hand. And you start with a bag. It comes with various dice, and obviously different gameplay with these dice that you're doing. So the very starter hand, as I said, is the basic one. You just have a handful of D3 dice, a handful of D4 dice. First mission, get 15 pips. So you throw these dice, and there actually is a grid. So it isn't just throwing dice. There is an actual board. And you obviously will get different dice that manipulate the board. Like maybe they'll leave something behind. Maybe it'll be a negative thing, like a fire, and it can end up burning your dice. You maybe want to hopefully roll your dice, and there's some dice that multiply dice when they're near them. So it's all kind of a luck based thing of hopefully your dice are going to get close to each other, so the multiplier kicks in, and you are progressively trying to get the pip score. So, like I said, the first one's 15. Pretty easy to get. Any extra pips by the end of the round, you get to spend at the shop. Buy new dice, buy new cards, buy new rings, which are permanent perks for the run, and so on and so forth. Till you get. This is also why I think this is more like Balatro, because Clover Pit did not have a boss fight, but Dice
I'll
Million
give
and
you that.
Balatro do. And
Nope,
they have
I'll give you that.
yeah, they have a very unique thing. Oh, this is the even boss. He will only if you roll an odd number, it will negate the value. Only even numbers will count. So you can kind of build your dice and how you want to do. Are you building a bunch of even cards, even dice, and so on and so forth, the multipliers. But that is the basic gameplay loop of Dice a Million. You know, and like a typical roguelike, if you do certain achievements, you'll unlock new dice, new rings you can collect, new cards you can use, and eventually new hands and starting decks you can do. But yeah, so the gameplay of Dice a Million, it's super addictive. It's rolling dice. And I will say this is way easier to explain because I remember, Keith, when Balatro came out, you tried explaining to me how you play Balatro like a dozen times, and I'm like, I don't get it. I don't. Everything you're saying to me makes no sense. But to me, it's so much easier to explain Dice a Million. You're throwing dice. You're hoping to get a score. Beat that score, you continue your run. That's it. That is the premise of Dice a Million, and the end goal is to roll 1,000,000 pips.
And I wouldn't disagree with that, honestly. And the biggest reason too is it's oddly one of the quirks about Balatro that I really personally enjoyed was that like the discovery of all these weird little things of like the order that you play your cards matters, the order of your jokers matters, just you know all these weird little things and I don't know quirks like I said that you can fall into. I just really appreciated that personally. That said, Dice a Million way easier to explain. The biggest complication is really just remembering what all of the different dice do, and they describe them very very easily. So it's not a huge complication, but outside of just making sure that you know what you're trying to build for, and I think that I've found the gameplay really depends more in Dice a Million on how you build. Like it's a much more simplified concept because you're not worrying about jokers, cards, decks, seals, all of these things. Largely, it just comes to what your dice are in your hand. And you have your rings, and so the rings are kind of like your jokers, I would say, in Balatro. Yeah. They're your various modifiers, and then you have cards that are your consumables that you can play within the hand. But I think largely, yeah, I don't know. It's sneaky ends up being the same math where you want some good combination of adds and multiplies, and it's really what it comes down to. You're not going to get by just solely on adding more dice or just multiplying dice. It just comes to a little math game that you end up playing.
Yeah, speaking of math game, the thing that I absolutely love about Dice a Million over Balatro. So if you've played Balatro, as Keith said, you get these jokers, which are kind of like your perks that kind of build your deck out. The important thing in Balatro is you have to make sure your jokers are in a proper order because you want them to trigger in a certain order. You do not have to worry about that in Dice a Million. They even tell you, don't worry about it. We always optimize the best possible route. So you'll get dice where it's like, oh, multiply this, then that, then this, then that. And it just does it for you automatically. So it makes the simplification of it so much better. Because like, Keith, you can obviously attest to this because you are always weeds deep in the Balatro subreddit. But people always talk about like how you need to set up your combinations for your jokers. And to me, I'm just like, no, this is too much for me. I don't care. I just want to play cards and get C number go up. I don't want to have to think about this, but you take that right out in Dice a Million.
You're not wrong, but I would say though the difference here is that there's no need for that in Dice a Million. I guess you maybe with your rings or whatever, but it's all about how the game is built. And I mean, one, you can't really quantify the order of how you roll dice unless you were to individually roll 1 dice, 2 dice, 3 dice, 4 dice, 5 dice. that would be boring. I would like just that gameplay mechanic would make this game not worth playing. So obviously you need to roll the handful all at once. So I think it's fine that it, not even fine. It should optimize it. I shouldn't have to sit there and consider the math of how I want to calculate out my points.
Yeah.
That would be a little bit wild. Again, also boring. But your point stands. I'm not completely saying you're wrong. I just it's kind of saying something that doesn't need to be said for when they point it out, I guess. What's interesting though is I'm watching you play and you're spending all your pips pretty much because you're playing this live right now, correct?
Yeah.
This is not, and that's fine. I'm watching you play and I'm noticing, like we talked about between rounds, your excess pips from the previous round you can spend in the shop. You're generally spending the majority of them. It looks like.
Yeah.
I was
'cause
kind of.
You have to spend your pips by the end of the phase, or you lose.
True, but I would and not completely save up for that, but it would kind of depend on how I was felt like the hand was going. Like if I didn't get a good run to start, I would immediately start holding on to them. And like I don't know, the only time I really started spending them was that the hand I told you that I won, where I figured out a set of like 5 dice that was basically just winning every round repeatedly for me. And so I was basically only using money to remove dice from my hand and just limit them down to that. It's kind of Slay the Spiring this game a little bit.
So have you beaten a run? Like beaten all 3 phase?
I have not. Have you?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's what you would say when you won. I was like, oh, because yeah,
No,
I've yet to win.
Okay, yeah. So like I said, I've beaten 2 bosses. As I said, it was the D10, which always adds its value to itself every time. And I got then I had it doubling itself, and I don't know, just a whole wild combination. It was always basically carrying me through. But I would kind of just save them up for that final run and spend them all there, because at least in that one time I didn't need the dice necessarily. But otherwise, I haven't found a lot of good combinations. I've kind of just feel like I've been throwing dice at a wall.
Good. I mean, that's basically what you're doing in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've yet to build a crazy combo. The best one I think I've done is a marble deck, which I'm kind of trying to do now. Marbles.
That's what I thought was going to be.
Yeah, they always just add 1, but they multiply depending how many marbles are in your bag. So I kind of like this building of, if I keep collecting marbles, they all just incrementally get better and better.
Yeah, there's one that you had. It's like it always multiplies itself by whatever's on the face of it, the purple glowing dice.
Oh my god! When I got that one, it always rolled a 0, and so it would just be a 0, and I'm like, you know what, this dice sucks.
Yeah, it was that one I had. Like I said, I had rings that were expanding my valid, like my thing. The only thing I couldn't get was the multiplier for dice that had a face value 10 or 6 or greater. Because if I had that, I think it would have carried me over. But like all these cool little ones that like you're building right now, like the pencil, like I was like, nope, I don't want to interrupt anything I have. I just want to ride with these 5 dice, especially once I got the one that saved its value. It was that D10. So every time I rolled it, it at least added some value.
That's pretty good. But yeah, I'm curious of like, I think the best run I've ever done is I got a score of 32,000. And like that was like, I was like, oh man, I'm doing great. I'm cooking on this one. And I still end up losing. And it's like, man, the goal is to get 1 million. So I really can't wait to see of like how you can build these certain decks of dice and just roll this game. Because this game does feel like it could be easy to break.
Yeah, there's definitely points because you start to get those dice that like add their own dice, different things. I am curious to get into more of the hands, but yeah, like the red dice to unlock the one past the red dice, it's like you have to play a hand with more than 25 dice in your deck or in your bag, I think. So it was like it makes sense for the red deck because you start out with all bottle caps, and then there's a special dice that can actually add, I think it's like 15 dice into your hand or bottle caps into your hand. So there's some
the
mechanic
bottle caps are fun.
They are,
or the soda pops, I should say, that give you bottle caps.
Well, yeah, because I mean they're kind of good, but then you end up with a ton of the bottle caps, and the bottle caps don't do you a whole lot of good. So it's like I can't quite figure out. But again, it was the red hand that I whittled everything down, and clearly it wants me to play with more in my hand, and that. So I don't know.
But yeah, I don't know if there's really too much to talk about. I will say the boss fights in this one I think are way harder than Balatro.
I didn't notice that they were doing anything, but I didn't pay attention, and I lost them every time until I started paying attention. For one, I also ran into again. It was that even boss where it was like double. I think I had things that were like doubling myself. So again, simple math tells you that any number you double becomes an even number. So if I was doubling my dice or my score, I had no worries about scoring because I was always going to score even.
Oh, and I will say, so between each round two, there is kind of, I mean, you really don't get to choose, but there is a path that your character's kind of going along. And this is where it is also a bit of a risk reward of, do you spend your pips at the shop, try to get more dice so you get a little better, or you might have to save it down the path. There'll be an event like, oh, with this challenge, you want to roll a handful of dice. If you can get a 3 and a 2, you can get a bonus reward. So you're spending extra pips to roll dice to hopefully get a bonus reward if you win that round. And I kind of like this aspect of, yeah, do you want to spend your pips to get extra dice, or do you want to conserve them to try to maybe gamble even more to get a better reward on the next round? Once again, very simple mechanic. I kind of wish there was a bit more branching paths, like Slay the Spire or anything like that, but it is essentially a linear path. It's just point A to point B, and you just have these moments of, oh, you could maybe roll some dice to get a little bit of extra reward.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, it's yeah, you could spend to get a little extra reward, but truthfully, I mean, like that's what I was pointing out earlier. Is I was watching you play, and it looked like you're spending a lot of your pips. A lot of times, I would kind of save them, unless there was just something that really felt special. But I don't know. I felt like you were buying things more. I will say it seems to throw on more. Like you have like modifiers, and it gives you those more frequently than games like say like Balatro do. They're not always good modifiers, but they are there.
Yeah.
I was curious though. I was looking at the stats on mine. So I have 26 defeats with a white hand. So I've just straight up lost every time because again, you need to get to 1,000,000. I've defeated one boss. Then I had the red hand. I've only lost twice with the red hand, but I have defeated 2 bosses because again, really good hand there. But it doesn't give you a lot of interesting stats otherwise that I can tell. It's like that's paid. So the amount of times you've beaten around, and that's about it.
I mean, that's probably
but
a
I assume
sign
it'll
of it
come...
being in preview.
No, that's fair. It's a 1.106 though. Is that really an in preview? Is that?
Oh, it is.
It's a 1.0. Yeah.
Well, I might be wrong because I could have sworn it said preview, but you might be right.
I'm curious. The original February 25th was 1.0.
All right. But the next thing I really want to talk about and get in debate of is the music. What do you think of this song, Keith?
It's fine. It gets a lot. It's the default for it's very loud, so yes. I did have to turn it down immediately, but it's fine. But you can play it without the music. Play whatever you want. But yeah, it's not great.
See, because like for me, I ended up hating Balatra's song. It's one song. Well, they claim apparently there's like a couple other songs, but it's like, no, it's the same song. Ooh, I've never seen a Gilded Ring. But this song is kind of interesting. But once again, though, when I first started listening, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of fun. But then once again, I'm like, oh, man, this is the same song again. I don't think I like this. And this always apparently seems to happen with like these games that, I mean, whatever. You're not playing for the music. This is, of course, a perfect podcast game. I've actually been watching a lot of YouTube with it, or I've been watching more One Piece because it's just something where you don't have to focus too hard. You're just throwing dice. But yeah, the music, already pretty sick of.
That's fair. I would absolutely say that. I just thought of this because I was thinking about it when you pointed out the gilded on the ring there. One of the first times I ran into it. So you haven't beaten any of the bosses, you said?
No, I have.
Oh, okay.
I haven't
Because I
beaten
was
a
going to say,
complete run, but I've beaten bosses.
gotcha. Because I like the mechanic when you beat a boss, where like the amount that you beat it by, it actually grades you, and that's the
Oh yeah.
currency you use in the boss shop. So so a lot of these games, when you beat a boss, you get like, well, Balatro doesn't do it at all. That just gives you a bonus reward, I think. But a lot of them, it gives you like a special reward, and this does too. But it does it in the form of a shop and how you're graded on your run. So if it's like 50,000 to beat the boss, and you get 500,000, it'll give you like 3 stars. And when you have those 3 stars, you can then spend them, or there's a donate option, which it should
Have
be
you
really
donated?
be. I have,
Oh,
because because on this run, I was like, well, I don't need any of these rings that were there. I don't need any more dice. So I was like, fine, I'll just donate them. It kept giving me more. It was like, hey, thanks for your donation. Here's 3 more stars. I was like, dang it. But otherwise, it gives you like cards, or it might refresh the shop or something like that. But it's actually a really cool mechanic, and I wanted to point that out.
see, I actually haven't done that well. The most I've done is 2 stars, and
I think 2 is the highest I got. I was like halfway to my third. I might have gotten 3. Either way, it was. I go on.
but yeah. So like I never donated because I'm like, well, I only got 2 stars, so I want to keep these stars. But well, I'm glad to know now that apparently I should be donating to them.
I don't know if they carry over, because it was the second shop that I donated them all, and then I lost. But either way, I would say yeah. It's a cool mechanic. Is all I would say. Otherwise,
But anyway, as far as graphics go, Dice a Million, it's fine. It's actually very cartoony looking. Really simple, kind of psychedelic colors going in the background. But I will say some of the graphics, though, are kind of hard to figure out what's going on with the dice. So luckily, this game, I will say, I don't know how much I'd like this on console. Because, like, these dice are super funky looking, and you really got to put your cursor over it and figure out what's going on with this dice. Because there are some dice where it's like, oh, the D3. It just has a 3-face dice. That's it. But then it's like, oh, here's the D10. You're like, okay, so it's just a dice with 10 face? No, it actually multiplies and does this and that. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, even here, I have this one, ancient die. It looks like it's just like a weird ancient fossil. And it's like, well, what's going on here? So I will say, like, it is kind of nice this being on PC. I'm curious how this is going to do on console. What
I
I
think
would
it'll
actually
play
like to
all
see is,
right.
I'd love to see this on mobile phone.
Oh yeah, this would be a fantastic mobile game for sure. But I don't think it'll be bad on um, console either. And truthfully, it's because like any of these games, it becomes a motion where once you start to know what the dice are, which and this is maybe an assessment that's like for someone like us who is gonna pour a lot of hours in this, you know what you're looking for by the end of this, or not by the
That's
end of
true.
it, by a few hours in even. But at least initially, you're kind of first like, wait a minute, I have to like really look at all these. And if you're familiar with this style of game, your first instinct is to start doing a lot of the math, and you need to make sure that you are, as I said, adding some that are adding pips, some that are multiplying them, and you have to have these combinations. But for the most part, it's just kind of start to remember what they are. Um, and ultimately it'll all start to fall into place.
Yeah. But now I want to talk about the thing that I hate the most in this game, and that is achievements.
A lot of 0 points.
Oh my god! Like at first, like when it first started, it was like simple things where I'm like, oh, roll your first dice, and it was like 0 points. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But then I noticed, I'm like, all right, that's like the 5th achievement I got that's worth 0 points. So I finally looked at the achievements, and yeah, there's like 120 achievements. No, I think there's probably even less than that, and like 90% of them are worth 0 gamer score, and it's like, screw you, Dice a Million. Who thought this was a good idea? Because at first I was thinking, I'm like, oh, maybe they just wanted to do so many achievements that they didn't have enough points to allocate. No. Because if you remember, we played Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, and they have like 200 something achievements, and because it correlates with the game's achievements, like their milestones, and the milestones are just the achievements. Simple enough. Every single one had gamer score. So every time I was doing a milestone in Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, I was getting gamer score, not in Dice a Million. So you're getting these things where it's like, oh, you unlock this ring. It's not worth any achievements. And it's like, come on. Like, you're a jerk.
The only thing I can wonder is that, like, it has something to do with it. Was it like originally a Steam game? But even then, Steam achievements have points associated. So just having a 0 point achievement seems so weird.
Steam doesn't.
No, it's just general count. So
Yeah.
then maybe that's the idea, is that this was originally built on Steam, but it's still just it's not a great experience. Because I don't mind getting a whole bunch of achievements, even if it's 5 points at a time. That's annoying. But I'll take all the pop-ups. It's kind of cool. You're fun. Give me 0 point pop-ups and give me like 3 of them at a time. I'm like, oh, this is just a nuisance. It's almost like an ad at that point.
That's a good point. Can I just pay to turn these off?
Right?
Yeah. So I guess we can get to our final thoughts here on Dice a Million. As I said, though, Dice a Million is a lot of fun. To me, I already find this more addictive than Balatro. So I think this, when it comes down to it, of like whether or not you should play Dice a Million or Balatro, I think it is kind of a preference. For me, I've never been much of a card person. I mean, heck, I guess I've never been much of a dice person either. But I don't know. To me, I just find Dice a Million to be way simpler. Because I like the fact, as I said, to not have to worry about, oh, do I have my jokers lined up? How do I do this? How do that? Nah, it's just roll dice and kind of just keep going. I love the uniqueness of the dice. I do like that there is a bit of a story here, trying to figure out what's going on. But yeah, it's a very solid game. I think it's super addictive. This is something I can easily pick up, put down, and just have no worries about it. To me, this is an 85. Don't care for the music, don't care for the achievements, but the gameplay itself is very addictive. Yeah, this boss I struggle with. The odds. So anytime you get an even number, it just cancels out the dice. Oh, I hate this one.
Brutal. Well, I wouldn't play the multiplier then. Again, anything you double is going to turn it. Oh, wait, you would want even numbers.
Yeah.
Anywho, so I mean, I'm going to start out. 85 is right where I was thinking for a score, so I'm just going to say that from the beginning. But I really like this, and from my perspective, I wouldn't compare it to Balatro. I will, in the sense that I think there's totally similarities, and if you do prefer one versus the other to the point where you don't want to play one, fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I just think if you like either of them, Dice a Million is just going to be it's plenty of fun. It doesn't even need to be better or worse than it, in my opinion. It really fits all of the same brain tickles that Balatro does, and it just does it in a little bit different way.
That's a terrible word.
Brain tickles? It tickles my brain. The numbers go up.
Describe it as brain tickles.
I don't see it as any
I
different.
get where you're coming from, but that word just.
Oh, I guess it does give you a freebie before it brings you to the shop. Yeah. But you can skip actually, and you can take it for an extra star if you want. But yeah, I liked this a lot. I knew I was going to immediately, so it's not even like it surprised me when I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. There's a lot of good to it, and it's simple. I agree. I think console is gonna be a little bit more difficult, but at the same time, I'm interested to play it on console. I just think PC is going to be better. But truthfully, I think Balatro plays better on PC than it does on console. And I agree with what you said for this game on mobile too, because Balatro plays best on mobile too. I could see this being way best there. The only thing that would struggle would be making sure you can read the dice descriptions well enough to really know what's going on a small screen. But otherwise, quick swipe of the 5 dice, roll them. It's just so gratifying, and I could spend hours doing that. So yeah, 85, definite game. Check it out if you're on PC, or wait till it comes to console.
Yeah, like I said, there is no console date at the moment, so you could be waiting for a while. So check it out. It doesn't take a huge, crazy computer, because as you could probably see, graphics of it are very minimal. So I feel like just about any potato PC should be able to handle it. But yeah, I think that'll do it for this episode of Game Pass Grab Bag Dice a Million. I've been your hardcore gamer, Sandra. You can find me on Xbox Live at Firebird0952. Please make sure you go to GamePassGrabBag.com. Check out all our past reviews. You'll in the top right corner, you'll find the links to our YouTube, our Discord, and all that. Come by, say hi. And thank you all for joining us. We love you all. We'll see you again next time.
Bye.